Hello and welcome. With Denning's ever-evolving dynamics and growing international affiliations, this new, latest, and rather much awaited addition to the Denning family was just a matter of time. And it is my absolute honor to connect and converse in a brief but a wholesome discourse today with the very notable Dr. James Abdey, the Associate Professor of the London School of Economics, very well known as LSE. Welcome, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. It's lovely to have you. It is my honor, it's a privilege for Denning to welcome you and to be able to have this very, very enriching discourse with you. So thank you so much for your time. Deep diving into your journey so far, your association with LSE has been very evolving. It has been very enriching. It has been going on since nearly 2 decades, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I don't look old enough,
No,
do I?
not at all. So it started off, I think, back in 2005 as you being a graduate trainee assistant. And those years passed by you being a lecturer with leading names like University of London, University of Hong Kong, Kazakh British Technical University, and also Singapore Institute of Management. With LSE, you have served then later in the capacity as a course manager, as a course tutor, as an LSE fellow, particularly in the Department of Statistics. And then you never looked back ever since. And today, I have you sitting in front of me as the Associate Professorial Lecturer and also the Associate Academic Director for London School of Economics for the University of London International Programs.
It's quite a mouthful, isn't it?
It's a mouthful. If you could just expand a little on this very enriching journey of yours, this very rooted affiliation that you have still held on with particularly LSE.
Well, it all stems back to my decision to undertake a PhD. So indeed, I began my PhD at LSE in 2005. But during my undergraduate and master's education, I studied both economics and statistics. And I loved both subjects.
Lovely.
And I was torn about whether to do a PhD in economics or statistics. And I was completely indifferent. And if there are any economics students out there, but basically these two subjects were on the same indifference curve for me. But I could only choose one. They were sort of mutually exclusive programs. And so how do you think I decided whether to do economics or statistics? How do you think I would make that decision? Could only choose one, and I was indifferent.
For the love of numbers, or probably the fact that you were good at it?
Those are very noble reasons. However, I got a coin, I tossed it, and heads it would have been economics, tails statistics.
Are you serious?
I am serious. I believe it's called flippism. It's this sort of pseudo-philosophy in life when you undertake the really big decisions by the toss of a coin. I assume it's a fair coin.
And you recommend students to do the same?
Well,
let's not get into that.
So it came up tails, so I did statistics. The initial intention, if I'm honest, was to do the PhD and go off into sort of investment banking, perhaps be a sort of quant analyst, that kind of thing.
Right.
However, during my PhD years, to sort of make ends meet, I undertook some teaching, so I was this graduate teaching assistant, and I just fell in love with it. It was just, I felt very natural in the classroom, and you're helping students, you understand the material, prepare for their exams, etc. Now, I mean, I think in life there's always an element of luck. Obviously, it comes in 2 types, good and bad.
Absolutely.
And there was some, shall we say, some more fortunate timing in that when I was finishing the PhD, someone in my department was sort of semi-retiring, and so they had this sort of vacancy to lecture a course, and so they offered that to me, and I was very happy there, and I've been there ever since. And so my main sort of day job as associate professor in statistics is to lecture on the big undergraduate courses that our department offers. So this is to internal students at LSE. But I wear various hats, and so I serve as the Associate Academic Director for the University of London International Programs. Again, quite a mouthful. So with that, I get to travel the world and visit the teaching centres. You mentioned Kazakh British Technical University.
Yes.
So that's in Almaty, Kazakhstan. They've been running our programs for a number of years. Singapore Institute of Management, one of our longest standing teaching centres, indeed our largest one in the world,
Right.
And many others as well.
Right. And your association with LSE was ongoing since 2005 onwards, without any break.
Indeed, continuous.
You being at different universities as a lecturer serving.
These were just like sort of fly-in visits, as it were. Yeah, I don't think anyone else will employ me, so I'm stuck at LSE. I'm very happy with that.
That is lovely. So now, since we look at Denning's recent affiliation with London School of Economics, how do you think, in a world of today, in a very, very competitive world of today, this design, this curriculum, and whatever LSE has in store for the students in particular in the fields of, let's say, economics or stats, how is it accepted and how is the program doing around the world?
Well, if I may, perhaps first of all, just to give a little bit of background
Sure.
to the University of London programs themselves. So the LSE is younger than the University of London as an institution.
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
But University of London was the sort of first distance learning program
yes.
in the world. Now, I personally dislike this term distance learning. It conjures up of a perception that you're sat at home. It's
You're
like
sat
a
at
degree
home,
by
yes,
correspondence.
yes.
But okay, maybe once upon a time it was, but it's very much modernised since. So our LSE's involvement with the international programs is part of really one of our core strategic aims, which is currently to educate for global impact. So LSE clearly a very world-renowned institution, but we're actually very small. Our campus is right in the heart of central London. Limited opportunities to expand the campus with
Right.
new buildings.
Okay.
And we have, give or take, and numbers fluctuate, but maybe about 4,000 undergraduate students on campus at LSE.
Okay.
We are one of the most competitive universities, to my knowledge, in the UK to gain admission, certainly at undergraduate level. Figures I heard was on average about 13 applicants chasing every place. All, of course, highly able individuals. We'd love to teach everyone, but we just don't have the capacity to do so. So with the University of London programs, we get to academically direct these degrees. So that means LSE academics, myself, and many far more esteemed colleagues than I produce all of the study materials, and it allows us to reach a far greater number of students.
Right.
And again, numbers do fluctuate, but
Right.
let's say around about maybe 10,000 students globally will be pursuing one of the LSE academically directed degrees. So contrast that with the 4,000 internally, you see this as allowing us to have much greater global impact.
That's fantastic. I mean, having that kind of a strength holds you actually in one of the, because I've done my research.
Very good.
And yes, so according to the QS ranking of 2024, 2024, it's considered to be on the 7th in the number when it comes to the economic leading universities. And it is coming in the ambit with the names like Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Oxford, Cambridge, Pennsylvania, New York. So how competitively gripping do you think the curriculum design is in comparison to these other universities? And also letting the audience know that the curriculum is exactly going to be the same as to what they are going to study here in Pakistan with Denning as if they opt for LSE and go to UK and study there. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So if you could just stress on that.
Yeah, well, if I can first just pick up on the point about the rankings, and
Yes.
I know many people, students, particularly parents of students, often fixate
Yeah,
on
they
rankings.
keep on
Yeah,
fluctuating.
and obviously they are they are what they are, and people,
Yes,
so
yes.
it's hard to avoid them. If I put my statistician's hat on for a moment, I always think the rankings that are finally published, it will depend on the methodology used to create those rankings. And my view is your rankings are indicative of the quality
Yes.
of an institution, but to really say one is in 6th place versus 7th place, each university is
Yes,
unique,
yes.
and but LSE routinely features in those higher echelons. Of
And
that
it is following in the top 10 universities for economics in the
yes,
very
yeah.
recent survey,
Yeah,
yes.
and of course, includes in the name London School of
Yes.
Economics and Political Science to give it
Political
its
Sciences,
full,
yes.
full name.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, in terms of the academic rigor, I mean, part of the contribution to these high rankings, and there are many different ranking tables out there, will be the academic rigor of our programs, and they are tough, they are demanding. We make no apologies for that, and I certainly always, when I speak to prospective students, I appreciate there's a lot of choice out there, a lot of competition. There's nothing wrong with competition, but I always feel that all degrees are not equal. Who the awarding body is, and indeed their rankings, their general global standing, how well valued is a piece of paper from one institution versus another. And clearly the leading employers of the world, they will know which are the better universities where they may wish to prioritise recruiting from. So with regards to if a student was to come to Denning and pursue a UOL degree with the LSE academic direction, they will be pursuing a curriculum, curricula, because it will be across multiple modules within a degree program, all of which would have been designed, developed, curated by LSE academics. If I may, I'll take myself as a case study example. So statistics is my field, I teach a few statistics modules on campus at LSE.
Right.
Basically, those courses have been sort of repurposed for the University of London programs.
Excellent.
The course names might vary slightly, the course codes vary slightly, but the content, some courses it's basically identical.
And how actively, sorry to interject, but how actively this revision takes place?
So with the UOL programs, we commit to a 5-yearly review of each individual module.
Okay.
Now, admittedly, some subject areas change more frequently than others. Take mathematics. Calculus, as taught today, is not really much different from many years ago. So the shelf life of study materials in some subjects is quite long.
Right.
But clearly, in other fields like politics, international relations, that's quite a fast-changing environment, and so we commit within a 5-year time frame that every individual module would have been reviewed, and to see how it aligns with the sort of internal equivalent course. Because internally at LSE, courses are taught consecutively each year. Lecturers, they come and go, people go on sabbaticals, and so whoever's lecturing a course in a specific year, they might tweak the content slightly based on their particular expertise or interests.
Right.
So as and when we come to, let's say, our 5-year deadline to review a specific module, we'll then see, from compared to 5 years previously, how has the internal course evolved, and look to update the curriculum for the UOL program accordingly.
Right, excellent. So now since you mentioned that roughly after every 5 years, those particular courses that requires revision, where you think that, the need of the hour is to, kind of like, just revamp the curriculum a little, that revision takes place nearly with 5 years. Speaking of the success when it comes to University of London making its way to South Asia, we have been, and Denning has been quite successful in engaging with a very mass majority when it comes to the disciplines of law, business, computer sciences now with Goldsmith. How much confident are you that we will be able to do the same justice to London School of Economics?
Well, I'm an optimist, and I'm very excited about Denning launching our programs, and indeed I look forward to interactions with faculty and students, and inshallah we look forward to particularly the first graduating cohort.
Certainly.
And to see the great successes they then go on
Excellent.
and achieve.
Any particular, because now we have observed that over the years, T&E dynamics have been very, it has been a very amiable acceptance in the market. It has been a very free-flowing acceptance in the market, in the Pakistani market in particular. Now, since UOL is very actively paving its ways towards new avenues in South Asia, what are your expectations from the Pakistani students and this particular market in view of what LSE and LSE provisions are?
Well, as I mentioned, the academic rigor of our programs, and it's not about just teaching students stuff and sort of remembering formulae or facts, figures, etc. It's about being able to think and apply what they've learned. And to be fair, most of our degree programs, they are quite exam-centric. I know perhaps students don't necessarily always love examinations. However, everything we do on the UOL programs, we would take our lead by what the internal practices are on campus at LSE. And for our undergraduate courses, for the most part, they will be 100% exam assessed. Nonetheless, we do look to diversify our assessment model as much as is feasible when it's at such a global scale with that 10,000 or so students at any one time.
Yes.
And we always look to innovate, so this can range from things like some coursework in some selected modules, also some like online multiple choice questions to carry a small percentage of the final grade. But with the supportive environment of the faculty, who will be, students will be in very good hands to succeed in those examinations. And remember, it's a degree, it's not just for 3 years, it's for life. It will be on your CV, on your resume, forever. And that's why I always encourage students. I appreciate it's a very big decision to make, and please don't just flip a coin.
Yes, certainly. It's going to be and because obviously students are definitely looking at humanities, social sciences, the field of business and commerce as their next option. Why? Because we are now lucky enough with institutions like ours and others with certain, very, very credible affiliations that the students are putting their trust in us, and they hope that, this particular name is going to ensure a certain level of weight and value on their profile, because every program has to be backed with certain vocational empowerment, because in the setting in the societal setting that we are in the socio-economic sphere that we are in, it's very important for these students to have a qualification which is accepted by the employers out there, and it brings that kind of worth into their professional career pathways as well.
Yes, University of London, it's known throughout the world, and it's a globally recognized qualification. And I would anticipate there will be many students who are perhaps seeking an international career.
Yes.
And so being armed with a UK degree, as graduates of this program would have, will stand them in very good stead.
And I believe that you will be very approachable for all the students over the years. You will be. I think we have very, very solid affiliations with the UL personnel. And any particular, now is stressing on the faculty and the teaching and the learning that's going to take place over the years. Any challenge that you foresee that the faculty might be facing in imparting this kind of a curriculum, or any piece of advice that you would like to give to the faculty or any practice that they should exercise or engage in particular?
I think a faculty member anyway, the first year you teach a course is the tough one because you're sort of getting more familiar with it. And once you get through that first round of teaching, it's the same course and the course materials don't change, it then becomes far easier. The economies of scale in terms of the lecture preparation. But we provide many resources for students and faculty alike. All of the study materials, of course, faculty receive these in very much good time in advance of their first delivery of teaching. I would say perhaps of our materials, perhaps one of the primary resources is something called an examiner's commentary. So I said we're quite an exam-heavy program. And of course we make past papers available to students, but also this thing called an examiner's commentary does what perhaps the name suggests it does. It's a commentary written by the examiners of that paper in that particular year. And in these, it's not just giving the answers to the questions, but also outlining what candidates, what's the official designation of a student in an examination, what they did well, but also not so well in that particular paper.
Excellent.
And so both students and faculty can learn from the mistakes of their predecessors, and so are less likely to commit the same mistakes themselves. I should stress when I say there's the answers, depends. I mean, in like a quantitative course, if there's a maths problem, there's perhaps one right answer. But we don't so much care about the student getting the right answer. Of course, we hope that happens.
Yes.
But what matters, and most of the marks are awarded for the method, explaining the steps. The examiners want to understand the thinking process of the student, not just did they get
the final
right
answer.
Number.
Got it.
And for the more qualitative subjects, obviously every essay written, we don't provide model essays, but rather the examiner's commentaries would outline the ingredients, let's say, for an excellent versus a more mediocre essay.
Excellent, lovely. Students always, Dr. James, relate to success stories a lot.
Yes.
So is there any student associated with LSE that you can share the success story of, that, joined at a very struggling stage, and then, you see the progression and...
Well, there are countless
I believe,
success
but
stories. If I may just perhaps say the sort of trajectory that is really pleasing to see.
Certainly.
So, of course, it's great to study internationally, and of course, I'd love all students to come and study with us physically in London at LSE. Of course, for undergraduate level, for international students paying international level tuition fees, a 3-year degree to finance that in London or anywhere in the UK, I guess in many other countries too, it's clearly not cheap, and there are clear financial barriers.
Certainly.
And indeed, one of the main ethoses of the UWorld programs is to offer students access to high quality degrees at much lower cost by studying
at the affiliate centres. Certainly.
So, but it's really pleasing to see top graduates from these degrees obtain master's places at LSE. On average, we have about 25 to 30 UWorld graduates who come to us to pursue their master's degree at LSE. Now, it's always competitive entry for masters, but by doing this program, if a student wish to apply to LSE, I think it's fair to say they would have a competitive edge in the application process, because the admissions officers, they're very familiar with these programs and know that it is LSE academics. Myself and many colleagues, we designed the materials, we set the assessments, we grade the assessments, and it really reinforces the quality of their education. And so when a student achieves first-class marks in our programs, that's a clear signal of their abilities. And I've known students go on to do PhDs, and of course they've gone on into work in many different sectors, industries worldwide.
This is exactly where I want you to finally stress on, because the students now, a lot of the students who will be listening to you might already be undergraduate students. So they will be pursuing undergrad with Denning, but there will be an audience that is going to be looking at LSE for postgrad options. So if you can just elaborate on a few postgrad, what the postgrad program entails at LSE.
Yes, well, actually, a fun fact about LSE, I mean, we are a special university in many ways, one of which is our pure focus on the so-called social sciences. So to come back to the rankings, other universities, Harvard, MIT, etc., they'll offer like all of the sciences, and those subject areas tend to perhaps be more beneficial to having a higher ranking. Of course, we don't offer those subjects at all. So, but we have... primarily, as LSE, we are a postgraduate university.
Yes.
We have more master's students than undergraduate students.
Right.
That's very unusual. Most institutions, it's the undergraduate cohorts which dominate in numbers.
Yes.
Numbers fluctuate, but I would say around about maybe 8,000 to 9,000 master's students versus 4,000 or so undergraduate.
Right.
Well, that gets you were surprised.
Yes.
So we offer indeed many master's programs. So this is why I always feel for undergraduate study, the UWorld route is excellent, because if you imagine a CV, ultimately what an employer cares about is your highest qualification. Of course, prior to that, you would have taken many other qualifications as stepping stones, transitions to the next stage. So, for example, I've got my PhD, I've got GCSEs in various subjects. No one cares about those now once you had that sort of PhD.
Fine, yes.
So, if a student is considering studying overseas, for example, at the UK, then I would say it's a very sensible strategy. Pursue your undergraduate studies locally, much lower cost, and if there were any parental concerns about their offspring, they're studying thousands of miles away at quite a young age. But if they pursue a master's abroad, they're going to be a little bit older, a bit more mature, more independent, can cook for themselves, etc. abroad. And of course, for most of our master's programs, there'll be 1 year. It's still not cheap, but it's relatively much cheaper than financing the full 3-year undergraduate degree. So I think that's a very sensible pathway. And when I interact with students at teaching centres the world over, particularly in the third year, final year students, many of them speak to me about their aspirations for master's study.
Right.
So I say it's always competitive entry at LSE and elsewhere.
Right.
But say we have an excellent track record of students getting into programs of interest.
Excellent. Because, a lot of students will be looking at, because the fascination for this market is to get a little bit of exposure in the foreign market as well. So it's very good that, we have a transfer option available for the undergrad students and now also a postgrad option. So I believe the transfer option will be available from the second year onwards.
So in terms of routes to LSE physically,
Yes.
so I would suggest at undergraduate level that the primary route I would recommend is the LSE Summer School.
Okay.
So this began, I think it was 1989 or the late 1980s, and since then has grown to become, I believe, the largest summer school program of its kind in Europe. We welcomed this year, I think, about 6,000 students to LSE Summer School. Not all studying a UOL degree. It's open
Right.
to undergraduate students from anywhere in the world.
Okay.
But we always have some UOL students attend LSE Summer School. So these are 3-week courses. They run in 3 consecutive sessions, so from sort of mid-June to mid-August-ish. Students could do 1, 2, or 3
Right.
courses. These are sort of condensed versions of, for the most part, of courses taught on our internal term time programs. A fairly new initiative with the UOL degrees is that we've said if the student pursued 2 LSE Summer School courses, sat the examinations or whatever other kinds of assessments they had, and passed those courses, they can actually use this for credit back towards their University of London degree.
Okay.
And that would mean they would then take 1 fewer courses in their final year in lieu of having done the LSE Summer School. So I think that's a great opportunity to experience LSE and London more generally.
Yeah.
For many of our summer school students, I think it's their first time abroad, or certainly the first time abroad
Yes.
by themselves. And it's for a fairly short period, so you wouldn't get too homesick.
Yes, yes.
It's during the UK summer where weather is at its best.
Right.
So I'd strongly recommend that. We also have the LSE General course. This is LSE's study year abroad program. I appreciate the costs are quite high, but it's always good to say what the possibilities are. We have a few, maybe about 30 or so students from around the world, from UOL, who come to us to complete their degree as an LSE General course student. So just a sense of numbers, general course is open to undergraduates the world over. I think we have about...
Throughout the year, not only a summer specific.
No, so it is a full academic year at the LSE, so roughly from September through to June whenever the exams finish. I think the most famous LSE General course alumnus was JFK, Kennedy.
Oh,
I think
lovely.
in the 1930s, if I'm not
Excellent.
mistaken. A student could do a general course, so that would be spending at the full, I would say, strongly recommend the final year of the degree. They still graduate with the University of London degree, but on the transcript, which is like an audit of all of the modules they've taken and the individual marks within them, there would be explicit reference to this having been
general
an
course,
LSE general course.
Excellent.
And then, of course, the master's programs as well.
Then the master's. So I think this transition, this brief transition for the summer school and also for the general course is going to give them the needed exposure that they might be missing out on.
Yes, and I think having some international exposure is excellent experience, and particularly for summer school. I mean, there's students from all corners of the world, and it's a great networking opportunity. Obviously, there's the strong academic focus of it, but there's obviously the social side. I hear there's a boat trip along the Thames.
So how many weeks again for the summer school?
3 weeks per session,
Okay.
and there are 3 sessions that are consecutive.
Lovely, excellent. So I think students will definitely, because a lot of this comes as a staple question that, are there transfer options? Can we go to UK and pursue the undergrad program? So I think that is going to serve the purpose when it comes to it.
Yes, I should stress for the LSE Summer School, I mean, technically, no places are certain, but certain modules may have prerequisites. So let's say if if it's a first-year student wanting to take a third-year course, that might have a prerequisite which they wouldn't yet have studied.
That makes sense.
But I think we have about 100 approximately summer school courses, and your academic eligibility for most of them I would anticipate.
And how many summer courses in totality during the year?
So it's,
how many they can take?
For the summer school?
For the summer school?
A maximum of 3 if they took one in all 3 sessions.
Okay.
But only 2 summer school courses could be used for credit for the degree. So if you did 3, that third one, you can't get credit for it, but of course you have that extra 3 weeks.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this added information. I think this is going to really evoke some sort of, interest in them taking up this pathway, and yet during the course of these years get some international flavor in also. So any final piece of advice to the audience listening to you who might think of LSE as the next step towards their academic progression?
Well, if I may, just to say a few innovations we've had on the UOL degrees,
Please
which
do.
I think are
Please
very
do.
beneficial
Yes.
for prospective students.
Yes, please do.
In that we fully appreciate that the vast majority of our students will not go into academia. Okay, they will not go on and teach future generations the same things that they had been
Certainly,
taught.
yeah.
Most are going to go into that scary place, the real world, and they're going to work for companies
And
corporates,
employers, yes. Certainly.
maybe public sector, but
Yeah,
many
of
in the
course,
private
yes.
sector. So I feel we as educators, we have a duty, not just to make students memorize facts, figures, etc., but to give them employability skills.
Certainly.
And we at LSE in the last few years have worked very closely with the University of London Careers Service to more directly embed employability skills into our curricula, such that there are allegedly 10 core employability skills which have been identified. Don't ask me to recite all 10. I remember a few things like negotiation.
No, I'm coming from that
problem-solving,
same
etc.
department, so I know what
Yeah.
it must be.
So we have
entailing.
identified those core skills, and for
Excellent.
each individual module within a degree program, the relevant course convener, so the LSE academic in charge of a module, will have identified sort of the 3 of those 10 which are most relevant to that
Relevant to
specific
the field.
module, such that as and when students go for interview, job interview, they can then show evidence of having achieved competence in these sort of core
Certainly,
employability
yes.
skills. In addition to that, clearly students today will be Gen Z, and in due course we need to make these things evergreen, I know, for these recordings.
Yes.
Gen Alpha, I think, follows that. These will all be digital natives, as
Yes,
in they've grown up
certainly.
with technology, as opposed to the digital immigrants, so the baby boomers and Gen X, etc. I'm a millennial, so technically I think I qualify as a digital native.
Yes,
I think.
certainly. All 90s kids do. We all do.
So now we appreciate our students are very tech savvy, but
Yeah.
we still wish to reinforce their digital literacy skills.
That is very important.
And so at time of recording, we are working on developing some sort of online self-study extracurricular to the main degree, but sort of online modules where students can develop their competence in a range of programming languages and software,
Excellent.
e.g. Excel
Yes.
and Python, for example,
lovely.
which any degree is finite. Typically, ignoring half units, there's sort of 12 papers which form a UOL degree.
Yes.
And regardless of the subject you major in, no degree will ever teach you everything you need for the rest of your lives. And so we can't cover everything within those 12
Yes,
papers.
of course, yes.
So having these additional resources, and students will be strongly encouraged and directed about which ones, given their degree program, might be most suitable for them.
Excellent.
It helps them develop those digital literacy skills, combined with the employability skills, the academic rigor of the degree that inshallah they've successfully completed.
Yes.
Then I think that will make them very much in demand by leading employers. So perhaps I think I'll ask for some sort of closing remarks or recommendations for prospective
No,
students.
this is amazing that this is going to be, these years are going to brush up not only on their academic enrichment, but the focus is going to be primarily on the employability skill set, on the competence skills which are actually required by the local market, by the international market, and then obviously making them more digitally savvy.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And of course, the world is forever changing.
Yes,
The only
yes,
constant in life is change. And what will the job market look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now?
Probably might not be the same, yes.
So, obviously, we can only teach students in the present
time,
time based on what we feel
and what the
students
future
need to know
looks
now.
like, yes.
But I think a graduate of our programs, they will have the ability to be adaptable.
Yes.
And frankly, we're entering, perhaps we've already been in there, but even more so now, this era of lifelong learning. And whether a student pursues a master's degree or not, the learning does not stop at your graduation
Absolutely,
ceremony.
yes,
It's
certainly.
a constant need to sort of reskill and upskill to meet the changing demands of the labour market. Now, of course, I can't say with certainty what those future demands will be. Obviously, I'm a statistician, so for me, data skills, numeracy skills,
Yeah.
are likely going to be in strong demand for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So I think the degree teaches students how to think, how to learn, and so after graduation, I think they should be able to have the confidence and competence to be able to source out. I mean, it's a lot of online free courses. I appreciate the quality varies a lot, and you've got to
Yes.
sift out the
Yes.
good from the
Yeah.
bad, but to continually reskill and upskill just to make sure that you always remain in demand by employers.
Yes, and I think there's a huge responsibility that rests now on affiliate centers like ours to ensure that all the resources which you have integrated in the curriculum are very well served in the center. So thank you so much, sir. This has been a very, very enriching conversation. I believe that it's not just going to provide enough clarity to the audience, but also going to give them enough, excitement to at least explore this pathway through London School of Economics. So
And
thank
it is
you.
exciting.
Yeah, and it
very
is exciting. Somebody is a curriculum that is going to make you digitally more sound, is going to brush up on your employability, on your competence, on your skill set, which is actually required by the local industry. I think there's nothing more suited than that. And there are a lot of students who are very inclined towards the field of humanities, political sciences, and economics, but they did not have, an institution of an international standard that would serve that purpose. So thank you so much for bringing London School of Economics to us, to Pakistan.
My pleasure. Well, I look forward to many future visits.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for
Certainly.
hosting.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you in the next interaction.